Tukoni is a charming point-and-click puzzle game where you play as an adorable forest inhabitant, the titular Tukoni. The game was based on a series of Ukrainian children's books by Oksana Bula and was released toward the end of 2020. Funding was provided by the Ukrainian Cultural Foundation, and it took a team of 6 about 4 months to make this game. Depending on how fast you solve the puzzles, it clocks in at about 20 to 30 minutes of play. While, of course, the art for this game is incredible, I want to highlight elements of the design that I think are really well done because, well, I'm a game designer. True to the genre. Point-and-click adventure games are one of the oldest genres of digital games, and while they've gone out of style, at least within the AAA games industry, there's still a thriving niche of devs and players who are keeping the genre alive, and Tukoni makes a great addition. You're mostly walking around on a 2D plane, looking for clues and objects to collect. Then you combine these objects in interesting ways to solve puzzles and progress. The puzzles in Tukoni are short and sweet, but clever. I think the game designer, Alexei Furman, did an excellent job at finding a balance in the difficulty of the puzzles. None of the puzzles were super challenging, which is in alignment with the cozy nature of the game, but none of them were so simple as to be boring. The last puzzle was the most challenging one, and it actually took me a second, but I think that's a good thing, because it was the climax of the game's story and it seemed to fit. One thing I think Tukoni did particularly well in terms of genre is how well it utilizes the I Spy mechanic of looking for objects, or put another way, how it uses uncertainty of perception. This refers to whether or not a player notices something. All games require some degree of uncertainty, whether that's who's going to win a match, what hand you'll be dealt, or whether you can land a particularly difficult jump in a platformer. A lot of games sprinkle in uncertainty of perception, especially when it comes to secrets. But uncertainty of perception is one of the core sources of uncertainty in point-and-click games, so it's important for games of this genre to get it right. Tukoni used uncertainty of perception very effectively. Let's discuss why and how. Tukoni uses varying degrees of difficulty when it comes to noticing interactable items. Some are obvious, like this mushroom, whereas others are integrated so seamlessly into the environment that you really do have to look, and look carefully, to notice them. This adds a lovely layer of difficulty to some of the puzzles, because the game designer can choose to increase or decrease a puzzle's challenge in part by making the items required to solve it either more or less difficult to pick out in the environment. I think it was very smart to include a variety of difficulty levels when it comes to challenges that use uncertainty of perception, because I think a lot of games, point-and-click games included, have a bad habit of either making challenges related to perception either laughably easy or frustratingly hard. In order to create a richer experience for players, it's important to understand what types of uncertainty your game is using and create degrees of that type of uncertainty, so challenges feel varied in terms of their difficulty. And Tukoni does this. Some things are easy to notice, and some aren't. Another result of Tukoni's masterful use of uncertainty of perception is that it means one of the core mechanics of the game asks players to really look at their surroundings. And since the artwork in this game is adorable, uncertainty of perception here also means the players are encouraged to experience the joy of really engaging with Oksana Bula's beautiful work. Players end up really looking at the world when they're trying to find things, and with a world like Tukoni's, I think that this results in a lot of delight for players. No words. Except for the main menu, Tukoni doesn't use any words or language. As someone who has attempted to do this in my own games, I can say that this is remarkably difficult to do effectively. This is one of those elements that I think maybe wouldn't have been achievable if the game was much larger, since as your game scales, so too does complexity most of the time, and the chances that you'll need to explain something through text also then increases. But because Tukoni is so short and sweet, I think the devs were able to get everything across to the player without any words. Everything is done visually and through animations, even conversations between characters. The reason why I think this is worth pointing out is because this means that anyone, regardless of what language they speak, can enjoy this game. It's also easier for people who have low vision or dyslexia to play. Though they could have gotten away with only having a handful of language options for the menu, the Tukoni devs still gave players a lot of language options, so hats off to them for that. Attention to detail. While it may seem that only larger game teams can afford to pay close attention to detail, in my own personal experience, I've found it to be the opposite. The smaller the team, like Tukoni 6, the more small, charming pieces of gameplay you'll find. For example, after you finish solving the first puzzle, which involves making a thermos of tea, at any point you can take it out of your pack, stop for a moment, and sip on the warm drink as you take in the environment. The game also manages to incorporate some humor, despite its short length. There's a bit where Tukoni is staring off the edge of a cliff, imagining themselves falling, which felt very relatable and made me laugh. The detail isn't just related to humor and charm, though. There are small design decisions that I think were smart and effective. For example, there's a leaf that blows across the screen and to the right after the player solves the first puzzle. This lets the player know where to go, which is critical because prior to this, the player couldn't walk off the screen and into the new area. As the leaf flies away off the screen, the player's curiosity will be piqued, and likely they will see if they can also move into the new area now. This leaf is a wonderful piece of level design that feels bespoke and unobtrusively guides the player onward. Conclusion. Overall, Tukoni is a very fun way to spend 20 to 30 minutes of your time, and it's free on Steam. I would definitely recommend playing it, and it's a great introduction to short games. I think Tukoni is also a fantastic way to introduce the non-game players in your life to games as an art form. That's all for now, but there will be more short game reviews like this one in the future. So thanks for watching, and see you next time.